Hey, it's Skylar with Pet Paradise. Let's take a look at one of the best beginner reptiles, in my opinion, the leopard gecko. And let's see if it's right for you. Leopard geckos are a very laid back kind of creature. They're happy in their own little habitat, in their terrarium, or out interacting with you. Of course, like all animals, they still have their wild instincts, but it's really nice to see the different personalities between each individual leopard gecko. They have super cute, big eyes, permanent smiles, and a nice chunky tail. Did you know they actually store the fat in their tail so that when food isn't available when they're out in the wild or during brumation, that's where they store their fat. So usually a chunky tail on your leopard gecko equals a happy gecko. These little guys come from South Asia, most commonly in this area here. Now they are mostly nocturnal, but you will see them out and about, maybe taking a lap or two around their enclosure, or they'll come out for a little snack. But most of the time they just look really sleepy and like they're ready to take a nap. But don't let that fool you, as they actually are pretty fast. Unlike the other beginner reptiles that are mostly arboreal and just happen to enjoy leaping off you to their own demise. Just keep in mind that they can suddenly just run off. So, if they're like on your arm or on your shoulder, they can go pretty fast and they can just accidentally just fall off or lose their grip. They have little tiny nails that they use to grip on. Just keep an eye out, and I personally always recommend just sitting on the floor, kind of just crisscross applesauce, and just hang out with them there, because there's a lot less threats as long as there's no other four-legged friends around. These reptiles are pretty hardy, but again, if anything falls from a certain distance, they're gonna get hurt. These guys are terrestrial and cannot climb the side of their enclosure, as the arboreal species have a thing called seta and spatula. So the seta is a small hair that has spatulas on the end. Once it connects with like glass or your hand or any texture really, it will do some sciencey things which will make it stick. But nonetheless, they are happy crawling around their enclosure and experiencing different kind of textures like cork, wood, moss, sand, gravel, really just enjoying taking in what nature gives them. Leopard geckos don't need a super high humidity, so that's just one less thing to stress about. Of course, they still need some humidity, but it's not going to be a crested gecko level of humidity. Their diet consists of strictly insects, and they tend to be pretty good eaters. Some staple insects would be crickets, mealworms, superworms, roaches. They really love roaches. Roaches are actually really good for them. For treats, of course, you can give them silkworms, hornworms, butterworms. Those ones with the higher fatty contents, those are better for just snacks. And then the ones that have the more protein, less fatty, those are the ones that you're going to want to feed as the staple. And all you need to do is dust them in a rotation with some different vitamins like calcium multivitamin and some calcium D3. Enclosure-wise, for them to thrive and to be as happy as possible, you're looking at a 30 to 40 gallon. Studies have shown that this seems to be the best size. Some people say, oh, they need a 20 gallon or a 10 gallon. There is no such thing as too big, just too bare. So if you have a bigger enclosure, you want to make sure that you're filling it with decor, like some logs or some natural plants. You can make a bioactive enclosure so that you have some isopods and springtails, just to make sure that they feel safe. But remember, in the wild, there are no walls. So we try to mimic their natural habitat to make them comfortable. In their enclosure for substrate, you're going to need a mix of a natural sand or play sand mixed with cocoa fiber or some kind of soil. I personally enjoy, we carry ABG Jurassic that has lots of like cocoa chips, and it has moss and other great things to boost humidity. Mix that with some sand, and that creates a nice, perfect texture for them. So some of them like to dig. Some of them just like to feel the sand between their toes. I know you're saying sand causes impaction. Yes, that may be true, but it's only certain sands, mostly. So the sand you want to stay away from is calcium sand. Calcium sand is what's going to really get their insides all blocked up, and that's just not a good thing for them. The rate of actually surviving from having a blockage is pretty low because they are small animals. They live in sand. In the wild, they are in sand. They're going to ingest some kind of sand at some point. A little bit is okay, but a lot, that's when you lead to troubles. So this way, when we mix it with the soil and the cocoa, it helps pass through the digestive system a little bit better. So as long as you have good husbandry, you're gonna be fine. Stay away from reptile carpets and tile, because if you think about with tiles, a dog on hardwood floors, that's kind of how it's gonna feel. So it's really hard on their joints and their bones. So I always recommend just stick with substrate. With reptile carpet, it's just a harbor for bacteria. If they get their little claws stuck in there, it could rip off a toe, it could rip off a nail, leading to infection. So I highly recommend just sticking with the substrate. Another thing in your enclosure you're gonna need is a calcium supply. So you're gonna have a little dish full of calcium. The calcium without D3, because they can get too much D3 in it and they get really puffy and it's not nice. So you always have to have a supply in there for them so they can lick it, some like to roll around in it. Having this supply will help them with preventing MBD, which is metabolic bone disease. You want to make sure their tank has at least 2 hides, that I'm saying at least, one on the hot side and one on the cool side. A nice big water dish. Some like to lay in their water, some like to splash around, and obviously drink. And some good enrichment. Some people like to put hollowed out coconuts. You want cork or moss, things that are just different textures, places they can hide under. I'm going to make a video about setting up a tank, but these are just the staples that you're gonna need. Your reptile will always benefit from having UVB, as long as it's the right UVB, because it helps, again, protect them from metabolic bone disease. So when we mix the UVB bulbs with having powder available as well for calcium, they're gonna be nice and strong, have some good bones. If you're looking for your first reptile, this is honestly one of the best ones. They have the best personality, they're so timid, as well as they live for a long time. You're looking between 10 to 20 years, but I actually have a customer that their leopard gecko is 28 years old. I hope this has been a fun and informative way for you to learn about some leopard geckos, and if it just happens to be right for you and you get to take one home. This YouTube thing is new to me, but I love helping people and I love animals and reptiles, so I want to start this channel to show my love and passion, as well as helping people. So this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna do it. Thank you so much for taking your time and watching, and I really hope it helped. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, or if you want to see some different reptiles and some info on some different reptiles, also comment below, turn on the bell, and we'll see you in the next one.